And good evening. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer. Tonight we're going to have a really intense conversation because it's a very intense subject, and I think you're going to be very interested. Missing people in and around Eugene, Springfield, or basically Western Oregon. Michael Bryson, a number of other names you're going to hear today. Their families, some of them pretty much know what was going on, but there's still no arrests. Nobody's in jail. Others have disappeared and no one knows where they are. There are some links and some things that tie things together, and we're going to talk about that. And then the Brysons have a foundation under Michael's name. And we're going to talk about that. There's a fundraiser coming up because, although this is tragic and it is tragic and it's horrible, but some good things have come out of this. And one is that the Brysons have created a foundation and they're bringing people together who are all in the same position. And we're going to talk a little bit about how important that is as well. Also, Bill London will be here with some of your news, BS Free MD. They have a podcast coming out today and they'll be joining us a little bit later to talk about that live. And also Dr. Michael Bratland, our dentist of choice. He cares about your freedom. He cares about your teeth. He cares about your gums. What he doesn't care about is what you do with your body. Your choice, your body. And he's all into that. So if you're one of those dentists that is, during the pandemic, if he made you feel differently than that, Dr. Bratland will not. So he's an awesome guy. And also a relative of Mr. Bryson's, Matt and Carl. New Leaf Hyperbarics and Wellness Center. Matt is related to the Brysons and very much supports the efforts that they've put in. Been out on his own. Actually, Matt, not only is he an amazing guy because he'll try anything in terms of light therapy, hyperbarics. And if you go in there, you'll get a discount if you mention Rick Dancer. They'll give you a discount for your first time. But he's also a firefighter, a volunteer firefighter. So he's helped a lot in what's gone on. So let's bring all of our guests on and everybody's going to get to explain. But you guys, we got tons. So it's like, I feel like we're on the Brady Bunch. Here's a story. And we've got all the little squares up here and everybody's going. So welcome all of you. And I'll have you kind of introduce. But Parrish and Tina, I'm going to start with you guys. When did Michael disappear? What do we know? Like, what's the very latest on what's going on with that? Tina, Michael, can you hear me? Yeah. What's the latest on what's going on with Michael?
Michael disappeared in August of 2020.
Keep talking. We can hear you even though you're frozen. We can hear you.
So the latest, we're still getting tips like we still get like 2 or 3 tips a week, not only just us, but Lane County Sheriff's. Unfortunately, we're still missing some big pieces of the puzzle. But what we believe and what we feel is by us continuing to talk about Michael and getting his face, that it's eventually someone's going to come forward with that missing piece. Possibly someone who vicinity, it might spark a memory. And that's our goal, is just to keep not just Michael's face and name, but every missing person in the area, keep their name and their face up front and center, because if not, it becomes a cold case.
Right. And that's the last thing on earth you want to happen. Now, Stacy and Misty, you're connected. If I remember, because we've had you on the show before, you're connected to the same story. Is that right?
Yes.
So talk to me about it's your brother and what happened and where you guys are at. Neither one of you can start.
Well, Shane Springer is our brother, like you said. He went missing November 2nd, 2001, missing for a year and a half. They found some body parts at the end of last year. we got the DNA results finally in April, and it was confirmed that it was him.
Okay.
It was just a small part of his body. He's still mostly, 4/5 of his body is still missing.
What is that? I mean, I don't mean to be, but what is that like?
It's, when you get that confirmation, you kind of, that's what you've been waiting for a year and a half or whatever. And it's not a relief. We're still, waiting for something more to happen, for his body to be found, and justice for Shane.
Because Misty, don't you kind of get to a point where you're like, I think the general public thinks, oh, good, you have a body, now you can get on with your life. And that's not at all.
No. I mean, while we were waiting for the results to come in, we suspected that it was going to be a match. I mean, the detective pretty much said it was going to be, but it doesn't really give you any closure because he's still missing. It answers it confirms that he's no longer with us, but we already knew it,
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like, oh, well, now and you have part of a body, but you still, and it's got to be frustrating because if I remember the story correctly, and I'll be really careful, and I'll let you guys do what you can do damage if you want to, but you pretty much know what happened, and there's a relative that's probably involved. Is that right?
I would say yes,
Absolutely.
without a doubt.
Absolutely. And can I go farther?
Sure.
Isn't it his ex-wife is who you suspect of being
His current wife?
His current wife. Okay. And so that has to be so frustrating because now you have a piece of literally the puzzle, but you can't, oh my gosh, I don't know. How do you describe what that feels like? Because there's got to be some real anger there.
There's a lot of anger. Yes.
You're being so nice, and I appreciate that. But it's like, so where do you go from here? I mean, and they found this piece of his remains in a location that is, and we'll talk to Cherish in a minute here about that. But there's something really screwy about all this, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like for Shane, his remains were found just downriver from his property. Now, there's no good explanation in my book why his wife, who lives 2 miles away, has never been out there looking. Continues to have an attorney, will not cooperate. I don't know that there's a good reason for that.
And you live where, Misty?
Minnesota.
And you just gave it away too.
Yeah.
Your soda had a soda. And Stacy, where are you from?
I'm also in Minnesota.
Okay, she covered it up real fast.
I tried.
She did. Misty, we caught you out of the chute, and you had, it was not even fair. So you guys are like so far away. That has to feel like you're. Well, how nice is it to have Tina and Parrish like kind of in your court?
It's awesome. The support's been great.
And they did it right. I'm going to brag a little bit about it. Your guys' signal's really bad, Parrish and Tina, which is why you're there. But I'm saying a few things about you that you can't get probably discount now because it won't pick you up as much. But I mean, by them doing what they've done with the foundation and putting this together to get you guys all together, that gives you the power. You were powerless, and you now have some power.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say something about that.
Pop in, Cherish. Tell us. Okay.
All right. So out of this group, Chase, my little brother, is the first one that went missing in April.
I remember that.
2020. And Michael went missing 4 months later. And
did they hang around the same people?
I mean, I don't know. I know I've told them like Chase was the same age. And I think that they could have been like in the same crowd. They would have been really good friends. I would have been friends with Michael. Like, it's just the same kind of person, charismatic, right, and like charming. so, you know, as soon as I saw that Michael went missing 4 months later, I was like, man, he just like, it hit my heart because he was the same age and like just the same kind of like sociable, likable guy that everybody loved. And it made no sense that they were just gone. Like these guys had no reason to disappear. You know, they had a loving family, they had so many friends. And the fact that you can have that many friends and just go missing without anybody knowing is beyond, it's bizarre. You know, it's
Now,
like
before we-
if you went missing, you have a big following. Like we would know you were actually gone because if you went anywhere, you'd have like people knowing where they could reach you. Does that make sense?
All you have to do is look at the comments on my pages and you'd know exactly who did it.
I'm just saying it was
No,
it struck me. And so I think Tina and Parrish remember it didn't take long after Michael went missing that I just like had this I don't even know how to explain it. I just felt like I had to reach out to them and tell my story, and they just took me under their wing instantly. Like,
they're kind
you
of
know,
like,
I'm just like a sister. My mom's passed away, so it's all on me. And they were just like, we know what you're going through, and we have your back. And then when Shane went missing, I think I reached out to Misty instantly. I was like, whoa, like what is going on? And I was like, reach out to Parrish and Tina. And it just became this family unit, like you don't want to be a part of, but like we had each other's backs. And I think it didn't take long before Parrish and Tina, like, you know, found like they're calling the worst case scenario. What could come about this is like they've taken all of us under their wing and they've developed this, you know, it's just they've developed what they have, and I have no doubt. Like I'm so thrilled that you know we don't have answers for why we found Shane, like what happened, but we know where he is, and the rest of him is going to come home, and I just know that's going to happen. You know, with Michael and Chase and McKenna, and even you know. The other guy that went missing in the same area, like I have faith. We're not giving up. Like we're just waiting. You know, we're here and we're present.
Now, Terry, you're representing someone else who just was recently, like April.
Yes.
So you're not as connected with this group yet, but you're here to talk about this other. Tell me what happened with yours.
McKenna Riley went missing from Blue River on April 5th of this year. Was the last day that she was seen under pretty similar circumstances to Chase and Eric and even Shane, in that she was seen in the Blue River area. She had kind of an interaction with the Lane County Sheriff that was rather suspicious. She was found at a construction site not far from downtown Blue River, and she was actually naked and seemed to be either traumatized and upset or possibly intoxicated. And the construction crew alerted the Lane County Sheriff, and they came to talk to her, and they felt that she was okay to drive.
So she's naked and she's okay to drive?
Yeah. So
what?
Yeah.
So she's, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Well, I guess when the sheriff got there, she had the construction worker's sweatshirt on. So, I mean, technically she was clothed when the sheriff showed up, but he felt that she was coming to and that she could make a decision for herself. And she told them that she didn't want medical care. And I think she kind of gave him an attitude, was kind of like, leave me alone. I don't want your help. No, thank you. And yeah, they let her get in her car and drive away. And it was like 12:02 in the afternoon. And, you know, her car is seen like going through Blue River. She was spotted on a few people's like Ring camera, and you can see her turning like what would be upriver towards her home, because she was living like 2 miles away from there. And then her car, her cell phone, her purse, and her dog that she took everywhere with her was found back at her house. But no one has seen or heard from her.
So do you guys think this is the same person responsible for some of them or all of them?
If I could chime in, the last place that Chase's phone pinged was Blue River Reservoir.
So, and McKenna lived on Blue River Reservoir Access Road. Like, she lives just down from what everyone calls Saddle Dam on a property there. Yeah. And so when you map it all out, like, I've put little pins in a Google map where, you know, where Shane was found, where Shane's car was, where Chase's car was, even where Eric Brazil's car was. And the proximity to all of them is, I don't know. It's freaky.
So
It's
Michael
too close, really.
Yeah.
So Tina and Parrish, do you think Michael is in that same thing, or is it something separate, do you think? Tina and Parrish, do you hear me? God, I hate internet when it doesn't work right.
I'd say probably something. If you're asking us, I'd say it would be something probably separate. But the similarities of, like Cherish was saying, Chase, and even Eric, three, they're very, very, very similar in just the age, the who they hung out with. They would tie Michael to these guys.
Okay. So what is the biggest, and this can be any of the four of you, Parrish and Tina, I'm sorry, your signal, you are coming through a little bit, but it's hard to get you guys. But you know what? Maybe this is just our way of getting to honor you. That we'll do that with you. Is the biggest frustration the law enforcement?
Yes.
Just tell me. Just tell me.
Yeah. For me, it has been. I lived down in the Medford area. I found out McKenna was missing on Friday. I was up there Saturday morning, and the Lane County Sheriff met me at that construction site, and instantaneously I just felt like we were butting heads. I found clothes in the water there, and I said, "Those are McKenna's clothes. Are you going to get them out?" And he's like, "Oh, well, we have a lot of transients around here. They could belong to anyone." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm telling you, those are McKenna's clothes. I was with her when she bought that coat at TJ Maxx in Medford. Like, I'm beyond a shadow of doubt, those are hers." And so just the starting point for me was just not a positive one.
Misty and Stacy, same thing.
We've heard the transient idea before, but another thing that's frustrating for me and Misty, I think, is that there's somebody that knows something and they're not talking. Along with the law enforcement, there's a lot of things they could have done better. But Misty, do you have anything?
I would say, so we're on our third detective now. And so much gets lost from one to the next, we feel like. And with
Is it like you're starting over? Is it like you're starting over every time somebody new comes on? Not over, but so you climb 3 rungs and then you slip down 2, and then you climb another. And I know this is the case with Parrish and Tina. They've gone through several, and I'll say this, they don't have to but they've gone through several, and finally they got somebody that was really took it more seriously, and you started seeing a little bit happen. That was the last time I talked with them. That's where we were. Now, Misty, go ahead. I've interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was just going to say, with the first one who had the case for the first 9 months or so, I mean, he had the attitude like, let's wait for bloody clothes to show up. Well, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to go look for those bloody clothes, right? And so we feel like that first 9 months was lost when that was probably the most important time.
And Cherish, go ahead. I see you chime in. Is that just?
Well, I'm boiling a little bit, but
I noticed your tattoo was turning like purple and red and kind of.
Misty and Stacy and I had the same detective for a while. I'm on my second one. I'm like confused they have a third one. Maybe I have a third one, but I've never even got a call from the second one. I've put in calls, but I feel like, they are overwhelmed. There's a lot of like missing people, but I feel a little frustrated that, the other day on the news, they're making this correlation for the first time that we've all had suspicion of, Chase, Shane, Third and McKenna, all in the same area have had this suspicion, but they don't want to pin it together, maybe out of fear, like to keep the public calm. I don't know. But they said there's like different stories, but I've never once had a phone call from the new guy that took over Chase's case. So how does he know? He doesn't even know, other than what they have on paper. He doesn't know.
So let me ask a question. I'm being real delicate with this, but let me, because I don't know exactly how to ask it, and I don't want to be blunt or anything like that. But do you think it has, and I don't know, Tara, I don't know the cases, each of the cases. So I'm going to make a statement based off what I know about Michael and that case. And I want to know if you think this is part of the thing here. And this is the part that kind of just rubs me it just pisses me off. I know in Michael's case, I think part of the reason, this is my opinion from what I've heard and done and talked with them. And this is no secret or anything, but because he was a drug user, because he was somebody who lives that lifestyle, or let's say it this way, is caught in that lifestyle that they're not taken serious. The case feels like it's not taken seriously because it's kind of like a runaway, Well, is that fair? Is it, you feel
120 million trillion %? Yes. And it's the thing that bothers me the most, because if my car was in my driveway and my purse and cell phone were in it, it would be plastered everywhere and people would be in an absolute uproar that this was happening. In my life is not any more important than McKenna's. It's the same. And the fact that it's not an uproar and everyone is just not so awestruck by this is amazing to me, because, and they say, oh, we don't want to connect them and we don't want to get the community upset that there could be, God forbid, a serial killer. Well, is it better that you have 4 or 5 separate people who are hurting people in this little tiny community? Is that better?
So doesn't that just speak so much about our culture? Is we look for excuses. Like every one of your family members, every one of them had value. Every one of them is a person that God put on this planet for a reason. And then somebody took them out. And we as a culture, because all of us have frickin' problems, but now because yours were drugs or living that lifestyle or getting caught up in that, then all of a sudden your values diminish and we go on to the next case. That is so awful.
So what about all the people who are addicted to shopping on Amazon or pornography? I mean, what about those people? There's lots of people in our culture that have a variety of addictions, and if something happens to them, does it not matter?
Right.
I love that Tara pointed out, like, if she went missing, it'd be plastered. I said that to Parrish and Tina, I don't know how long ago. Like, I'm a mom of 3 young girls and a blonde white girl. And if I went missing, it would be all over. And, I almost regretted that I shared the pieces that I did with Chase's case in the beginning, because I think they looked at me and they took it really serious. And, he had like a helicopter searching for him. It was the whole 9 yards. And as soon as I got real and gave him like secrets, it just became, quicker that they pulled out. And it's just like, I heard from the first detective that it could be, he didn't want to be found. And I was just like, but I'm telling you, that's not what happened. Like, he has 2 daughters. He was very involved with, like,
so
they don't know him on a personal level. You know what I mean?
So
Michael, like, took part in drugs, but he also had a different part of his life too, that he flourished. He had a family that cared about him.
Well, I have a friend who's a felon and served 2.5 years in prison. and he still gets disrespected. And then, you know, every time he served his time. And so every time he goes for a job interview, he has to put felon on there, which just says, bullshit, you're not going to get a job. And then we go, why can't he get a job? Because we don't really believe that people serve their time. You know what I'm sorry, I'm opening a whole can of worms here, but here's my other can of worms I am going to open. What do you think it says about the state of Oregon? And I'm not anti-Oregon, but I'm anti-Kate Brown. When your governor of the state releases known murderers and criminals, now one of them is the main suspect in 4 murders of 4 women in Oregon. And they think it's a serial killing, and they think it's this guy. And a huge percentage, Bill London later in this newscast will tell you how many of the people she released have reoffended. And she writes a note and says, this is horrible that this happened, but where's the frickin' apology? And if the state of Oregon, if the head of the state is willing to release murderers that way, and then you have people who support her, is it any surprise that your cases are just sitting out there dangling because it's not sexy enough for people, or I don't know, or because they're not worthy or something like that? But it's just, this is like a whole twisted bunch of garbage. And it starts at the top. And I haven't seen, I think Kotek, the new governor, did actually get him put back and kept in the prison. But when are we going to go looking for the other people they released? Because we don't know what's going on. That's a sidebar. Yes, it is. But it all relates because it's the way the state thinks. And if you're going to think that way,
And I
But
think
we just decriminalize drugs in Oregon.
Save me from myself. Yes, please, someone.
Well, I was just going to say, I think the way that it relates is that I literally thought there was a correlation between those 4 girls in Portland. But, you know, they said, oh, there's no suspicion. I don't think there's a correlation. Because, again, they didn't want to, like, scare the public. And that's what's happening right now with these 4 in Vida, Oregon. And there's definitely a correlation that needs to be looked at.
Right.
You know, even with Michael, there is a correlation with the type of person going missing in the proximity of time in Oregon, and we need to pay attention.
Go ahead, Parrish. Parrish, you want to say something?
Right, and I think one thing that we need to work on as a society is the views of our law enforcement, because when Michael first went missing, we had our detective as well as a member of search and rescue tell us right off the bat that, you know, he just overdosed, and either we are going to find him or a hunter or mushroom picker is going to find him in 5 or 6 months wrapped around a dump. So they already had it in their mind that Michael was just an addict and he overdosed. End of story.
Yeah, maybe we need to look
when
at
you have other people coming forward with tips that suggest otherwise, and kind of push to the side. Exactly. You know, and one thing I've learned that I've said before is there's no such thing as an addict, a person with an addiction problem. And we need to get people to start looking at these other people as people.
Right. We do that with all kinds of other people groups. You know, it's like, I know my brother-in-law has a disability, so it's people with disabilities. So it's not a disabled person. So these are people with addiction. So if we look at them as human beings, somebody fucking killed them, and it's just hanging out there because they devalued these people. That is just horseshit. And it says a lot about the state, and it says a lot about the leadership, and they better straighten this out, because, you know, so really quickly, Parrish and Tina, because I've got your signals kind of working, would you tell me about the event coming up? I want you to get that out, and then I'm going to come back to each one of you and ask you one more question, okay? So Parrish and Tina, tell us about the event.
Sure. So this coming August 5th, so not this Saturday, but next Saturday, we are doing the second annual Michael Bryson Shuffle. And this event is not just to create awareness for Michael, but it's for every missing person, and also to create awareness about mental health and addiction, because they do go hand in hand. So it's a fundraiser basically to help support not just searching for Michael, but anybody else who comes forward through the foundation and asks for our help. So we can go out and help these families, whether it be with drones, underwater drones, getting a search team together, getting some cadaver dogs together. All of those things unfortunately takes money. And, it's a heavy burden that we've carried for a long time. And that's why we formed the foundation, was to ease it on our families, and then also be able to help other families who don't know where to start, don't know what to do, and give them the tools that they need to move forward, because the first 24, 48 week is very, very important as far as getting information.
How do people find out more about it, Parrish?
We have on the Michael Bryson Foundation.com on our website, we have a signature or a sign up place for it. Also on Michael Bryson, Let's Find Michael Bryson on Facebook page. It's right up at the very, very top, so they can look at that and sign up there. And it kind of gives you the time on the 5th. Registration, if you sign up early, is $25. You're guaranteed a T-shirt. We're also doing a raffle to help kind of offset some of the expenses for the shuffle. We're going to do an online raffle, as well as some things that are going to be at the actual shuffle for people to raffle or to put tickets in as well. We're going to go live with that probably tomorrow evening with the baskets. We have about 30 items that people around the community and businesses around the community have donated some really nice things.
Last thing for you two. How much has the foundation helped you deal with the loss of Michael?
Yes. Oh, it was a loss. How do we deal with the loss? It's your turn.
We didn't hear that, Rick.
Oh, I'm sorry. How has the foundation helped you guys deal with the loss of Michael? Did you hear that?
Oh boy. I did. So, it's still not easy. 3 years out, it's still like it was the day he went missing. Just wondering what happened to him, where he's at. It just doesn't go away. It's just as hard today as it was 3 years ago. And we just pray that, one day at a time is all we can do. One day we might have a good day. The next day, it's just one day at a time.
Stacy,
when they say that grief hits you in waves, it really does hit you in waves. Like she was saying, there's days where it's just kind of, you see something that reminds you of Michael and you smile. You see a song that reminds you of Michael and you laugh, and then the next day you see something that reminds you of a story, and you just break down and bawl. The support that we've gotten and leaning on each other has really, that is what's got us through it, because there are days where I don't want to do anything, but you realize that there's other people in your life that need you and love you, and put on your pants and you get out of bed and you move on.
Well, let me tell you, as somebody who's followed you guys through this, and and a member of the human community and stuff, watching the two of you, and a lot of people don't make it through their marriage, and watching the two of you is such an inspiration to people. And I think well, all of you, you all kind of give you give the definition of love like so much more meaning than what I had before I started doing these interviews with you, and just today with you guys. I mean, how much you love Shane and Michaela and your brother, and it's like it's not a why it happens thing, you know what I mean? But I think the way you guys are handling this and it's inspiring to people. I think to know that you can love, that you can love someone that much in a world that doesn't have a whole lot of love in it. And for us to watch you guys and see the pain in your voice and stuff, I think it shows that love is a pretty powerful thing. Stacy, I want to just give each of you one chance to say the best thing about your brother.
He is the most laid back, easygoing person you'll ever meet in your life. Very supportive and a great guy.
Misty?
I just loved his like personality, just like, whatever. And just like as Stacy said, so easygoing. And he was my son's godfather, along with Stacy being his godmother. So there's that too.
Tara, Michaela, what's
Oh, it's McKenna.
Oh, McKenna, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Oh, that's a hard one. She's so smart and an amazing artist, and you had to be on it when you were around McKenna because I mean, she would catch you, and she was always just like witty, and I mean, yeah, you had to be careful with that one. Just really smart and talented, and she was so good with kids. She was a preschool teacher even when she disappeared, and I feel like she like never lost her magic that some of us lose as we get older. Like McKenna kept that magic, and it was like little kids could see it and they just gravitated towards
So would it be McKenna, and her tagline would be "On your toes"?
Yeah. Sometimes as soon as something left my mouth, it'd be like, shit. Like
now she's going to use that. Yeah. Oh, I was that kid. And Jerish, what about your brother?
So Chase was born when I was 10, and I like to joke I have 2 other siblings, and he was by far like I had the strongest bond with him. I don't know why. It was just precious. And my mom passed away when I was 23, and he came to live with me when he was 13, and lived with me till he was 18, then came back, and our bond was just crazy. He just like rocked my world, man. He was funny. He drove me crazy. He was so charming. He just had like the world at his fingertips, and it just like breaks my heart. Like I'll never be the same girl,
Right. Yeah. Because you love somebody that much.
Yeah. He just like was precious. That's the best word I could use to describe him.
Well, Misty and Stacy, I hope that we find more, and I hope that we get the police on this and do the right thing. I think one thing we're learning in our culture right now is truth really matters. I mean, more than it ever did before. And bullshit it doesn't work anymore. So we want answers, and we don't want discounting people, because it's, you can't cancel Michael or Shane, any of these people. You can't cancel them because it's not convenient. And I think that's, I pray for that for you and your brothers. And for Tara, I hope that I hope she's just somewhere and we find her, and it's always nice to just think that, right? I mean, who knows? Maybe it's true.
Maybe.
And it would be the best. If it is, you're coming back on my show. We're going to do that. And same with you, Jerry.
Oh, I'll be dragging her.
Yeah.
I'm going to get Costa Rica and relax.
I'm going to have to beep it the whole time when she's talking about all that
Just
stuff.
a little bit.
Like all of you, and Paris and Tina, I'd have you say more, but your signal's so low, and I think we understand what's going on with you guys, and and I just think it's so cool that you have. That Michael has helped you put this together for all these people and more. I know this is just a representative of people there. So I appreciate you all taking the time to come on and share your stories with us, and hopefully somebody will budge. Somebody in Blue River, I'll get on them in just a second. They'll hate me after that. All right, you guys, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. See you later. So there you have it.
Thank you.
Oh, you guys are so welcome. All right, Blue River, something's going on up there. And these people are hurting. And somebody outside of Cottage Grove knows what happened to Michael. And how do you really want to live with that? You know what happened. You know. And yeah, you know, it's hard. And there are consequences. In fact, let me read you a really interesting little line right here that I think will be very good. It's far worse to go along with a lie than to tell the truth. Tell the truth and let God take care of the consequences. That's my challenge to whoever did this. Whoever's did this. And Oregon, what your last governor did is shameful. And you need to get on it. Because if you don't get on it, this is just as much your fault as it is hers. And that's the truth. If you don't stop this from happening, you're just as guilty as Kate Brown and all those people she released. And that is the truth. Change your attitude. They're people with addictions. You want to honor all these different groups and people groups and all this other shit. And yet you don't honor the very people in your community who are addicted to stuff. So if you want to have your little things, you better include all people, not just the ones that you want to put in the box. You got to put everybody in there. If everybody has human value, then they have it too. And so you want me to value your values, then you get your fucking ass and value mine. That's enough. Makes me so damn mad. Yeah, why did I leave Oregon? You want to know? Yeah, I'll tell you. Montana, they shoot you. One of our other sponsors tonight. Sorry, Tim, to bring you in after that. And then we're going to have Bill London, and that'll just leave you with even more. Tim, here he is with BS Free MD. How was that? I know I saw you sitting there watching, and isn't that just amazing?
Well, it is, but you have to understand that these people don't have human value. They have political value.
Right.
And if they don't have political value because they're transients or drug addicts or homeless or whatever category you want, then they don't have value to the people in power because they have no political value. And so, I mean, it's just, to use your words, it's just a fucked up equation is really what it is.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're coming from this from a Judeo-Christian perspective of all people are made in God's image. So they have inherent value, you know, bequeathed to them from the creator. Well, right. Unfortunately, we're not in a political fight. We're in a religious fight. These people believe a different religion. They believe in a political religion that we don't believe in because we ascend to a higher power.
Don't you think though, Tim, don't you think it's interesting that we hear all this stuff about equity, but it's only if you are a certain people group, you know? And what about equity for these folks? These are folks who've made mistakes, like all of us, and it's so easy we're so compassionate towards certain groups of people, but then it comes to these, and you know, and we just forget about it. So these people have missing, you know, think of all the people that went and watched Sound of Silence, and because it's children, and
Sound
because
of Freedom.
it's Sound of Freedom, thank you, and because it's sexual stuff and it's trafficking. Well, we don't even pay attention to trafficking. And now people might start to do that. But these are people who were also just disappeared. And we don't have enough empathy in our culture to put ourselves in their position and think, what happens if I go home and Kathy's not there and I get the same thing that Cherish gets from the cops? What happens to me? You know, I go home and I walk in the house, Kathy's not there, and I run around and look I don't know where she is. But like Sherry said, Kathy, that would get caused because she's not an addict.
Right. But you have to understand that the equation is a political one.
Right.
So of course, if your wife went missing, she would have high political consequence for the police. So they would have a big search and they would be a big story, all of those things. Right. But But when you legalize, and I was very libertarian on drugs until I saw the actual outcome.
Right.
When you essentially legalize heroin and meth and whatever, and you explode homelessness, and you let people get in the own way of their lives, and then they're in your way. Okay. So now homelessness is such a big deal, even in the small town I live in, that you literally step over the bodies.
Right.
So you're desensitizing people to not give a shit about the plight of their fellow man, because now their fellow man is in their way walking to work.
Right.
Okay. So then what result do you this is the exact result that you should expect.
Right.
You know, it all streams down from the same nonsense. And so, I mean, it is unbelievably frustrating, but it's also why, you know, I got 2 more months and I'm leaving the state, brother.
Yeah. I understand. I mean, and not everybody's in the position they can do that. And we get that. But it's like, I was listening to a podcast this morning. I think what I'm going to do is Bill London is going to be a separate. I'll put him on tomorrow just separately, folks, so you can see Bill, because we're running really long here. But I don't want to. This needs to be done. This has to be done. So, but I was listening to this podcast and they were talking about that very issue of if you're not participating in voting, that's the one thing everybody talks about, especially, and I'm going to go on a little limb here, especially women. More women vote than men. And so if you're going to vote, you better know what you're voting for. Measure 110, measure 114. You better go past it sounds so good, I feel safe with that. That's horseshit. You better go way beyond that and start figuring out what you're voting for, and more importantly, who you're voting for. If you voted for Kate Brown, 4 women are dead because of your decision. I mean, that's the reality. Yes, you didn't know, but bottom line is you voted for her. And we have to be take responsibility for our own actions. So it doesn't mean you go throw yourself on the ground and beat yourself up. It means you start using your intelligence and figuring out who you're voting, not coming in and voting because you hate someone, AKA Donald Trump. When hate is the thing making you vote for something else, you're ignorant and you're not making good decisions. This is probably going to get pulled.
Yeah, well, then let it get pulled, whatever. Hey, I like it.
I'm so done with the whole censorship thing. I am so done with it.
No, but that's the, speaking of censorship. So our podcast that dropped today was Sabine Hazen. So Sabine is,
I saw the title and I watched a little bit of what you put on there. Oh my God.
Yeah. So she is an unbelievably amazing ethical researcher. She has been a part of, over 300, FDA directed, clinical trials. So she has a huge track record. She's probably the single biggest expert in the gut microbiome, which is essentially what your poo is telling you for lay people, and done stool transplants and seen people. On this episode, she talks about a guy that had a mini mental status exam. I think it was 11. So the normal a normal exam, if you do a mini mental status exam on somebody and it's normal, it's 30. Okay. His was 11. He got a stool transplant. So he had pretty profound Alzheimer's. They retested him 3 months later and it was 29.
What?
Yeah. So like double Biden's basically, right? So yeah. And Mitch McConnell. So like better than Mitch McConnell and Biden combined. So it's like, holy crap, literally. So, I mean, she is an expert. She is very passionate. She loves taking care of people. So she goes and produces this hypothesis. It wasn't even a study. It was a question, because what she found during COVID by testing people's stools is she was the first person to recognize that COVID is in your poop. Okay. If you get COVID, you get it in your stool. It goes through your intestinal tract. So then she started studying the actual microbes in people's stool and what happened to those people when they were sick with COVID. And people that had a certain threshold of bifidobacteria, which is a certain subset of bacteria, they never went to the hospital and they never died. Not a single person.
Huh.
So then she's like, okay, well, she looks at ivermectin, and ivermectin is actually made from bacteria. And she proposes this hypothesis that ivermectin, because she noticed, she had studied this, that ivermectin increases your bifidobacteria. So she proposes this hypothesis that the reason ivermectin works in COVID is potentially because of the way it changes your microbiome. Your gut gets healthier, your immune system gets healthier because your gut is healthier, ergo you don't die of COVID. So this is getting ready to get published. It's sent out to journals. They see the word ivermectin and they pull it.
Wow.
So it's just like it's sent like, so when you hear this, studies say, okay, well, what studies? Because not everything that gets published. There's no ethical debate anymore.
I saw a meme today, Tim, and it was a guy saying, had a sign and he's holding it up and it says, of course, all the scientists agree. You shut up all the ones who had an alternate story. And that's very true of our culture. And I just pray to God. I mean, today I did a little video and I'm actually just praying, like, God, show people this censorship that's going on, because I mean, and then I get the regressives who call themselves progressives. I call them a regressive. And I get them on here and they're going, there's no censorship. You're just saying, you come look at what I deal with and how I have to, who knows if this will be pulled. And it's like, this is not America. And if people think this is okay because you're so right, that means you're freaking arrogant. And you're ignorant and arrogant, and that's a dangerous combination. So, Tim, the podcast comes out today, so they can tell people where they can find it.
Yeah, so on all major podcast platforms, obviously the two big ones are Spotify and Apple. And then yesterday we did a Doctails with Cocktails. We do a live stream. That's
fun.
Yeah. Speaking of junk science, I found a study from 2002 that said female exposure to semen decreases their risk of depression.
And how did you use that to your benefit?
Oh boy. I told my wife that I am a mental health advocate.
I remember when I had my vasectomy, I told my wife, they said you have to, do something 30 times before you're safe or something. So I just forgot to tell her that it wasn't like every day for a month.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly
Oops.
Right. I mean, like there's so much junk out there. And so, I mean, honestly, now I listen to podcasts or I see a meme or I see somebody presenting something on Instagram and it's like, studies say, and my head blows up.
Yeah, anybody can say that.
Exactly.
Tim, I'm so glad you were the one who was watching tonight, because I was watching you and I was seeing the steam come up, because you don't have as much hair as I do. When Cherish and everybody's talking, I can see the steam coming off your head. I'm going, now, if this conversation was interesting, once I get Tim on here, I don't need to worry about him. He's going to go down that rabbit hole. We'll be good. Tell May, give her a big hug, and then we'll get that other show. I'd really like to do something with that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Look forward to it.
All right, Tim, thank you.
You bet.
All right, you guys. So if you're not fans of BF Free MD yet, that's what it's all about. Just what you saw. Except he has a really beautiful wife, and she's really nice, and so they make a team because she's beautiful and Tim's, I mean, I think he's hot, but hey, that's just how it is, right? I like my doctors, and he does play doctor too. So anyway, that's on BS Free MD on Spotify and also Apple, and then check out their Facebook page. Go like that, and then if you get on their, if you sign up for their. Go on their website. I'm sorry, I'm just so frustrated because I'm so angry. I'm going to go home and have a beer. You sign up, and they send out a newsletter. And the one this last week, I learned so much. And I was sitting there. Now I could sit here and want to tell you, but I was reading something and I went, I did not know that. And I turned to my wife and had a conversation. So there's really good information in it that they'll send to you. And then they also remind you when the podcast is. So do that. Share this with your friends, because Facebook sure as hell is not going to boost this thing out for me. They will throttle the heck out of it. And then I'll have Bill London tomorrow. He has a really good newscast. It's about 15 minutes long. I'll post that tomorrow on my page, and then you guys can catch up with Bill. There's just not enough time to put it in here. I'm Rick Dancer. Tonight, this is why I do what I do. You know what? And I was running around the pond today, and I'm going, God, I just don't know. It's just making it harder and harder to do this. And I felt like I just heard him in the distance just saying, be still and know that I'm God. I've got a plan. So I'm here. And that's what we're doing. So help me by sharing. I really appreciate it. And we will talk to you guys on Tuesday. Good night.